Hello, my lovely Natsukis. It's your bestie Summer, and I totally didn't just wake up, and it's totally not 1:39 p.m. in the morning on Tuesday, aka the day I'm supposed to be posting this. So, as you can see, it's gonna come out late, as you'll probably realize once this doesn't come out at 2, because it takes a bit longer than half an hour. It takes a bit longer than 20-ish minutes to record and edit and make this. But I'll still be able to get it out today. So that's fun. But it'll probably come out in at 4, so at around that. So hopefully nothing gets in the way of filming and editing and stuff. But yeah, anyways, this is part 2, chapter 1 of Press Heart to Subscribe, a DPXDC podfic written by die_Erlicollagen, read by Summer Audio. Enjoy! Nebula was surprisingly down to earth. He was humble, kind, passionate, clever, resourceful, and many, many more things. The hours had flown by for Damian as he'd listened to Nebula's previous streams. He'd caved and made himself a Twitch account, red_ghoul. It was simple, elegant, and paid homage to who he was. Besides Richard, his brothers had Red at the beginning of their vigilante names, something Damian looked forward to continue once he graduated from being Robin. The ghoul was obvious, as he was an all-ghoul. Once the account was made, he followed Nebula. He surprisingly enjoyed all of the content that Nebula made. On these Going Goth streams, Nebula played horror games while dressed in goth attire. Some of them were more psychological than jump scares. Those were Damian's favorite, as they often included puzzles or mysteries to solve. The Rusty Lake games had been particularly enjoyable. Some of their puzzles and riddles stumped even Damian at times. Nebula hadn't given up, prevailing at the end. Others had been incredibly profound, like the indie horror game The Cat Lady and Friend Beau. Nebula was respectful and contemplative during these, offering insight and opinions that, in Damian's opinion, elevated the stream. Damian could not deny the streamer's beauty either. The gothic attire looked incredible, contrasting with the pale, almost deadly white skin. One stream, Nebula had been wearing a fishnet top with nothing under it. Apparently, Nebula's air conditioning unit was not working, thus the fishnet top and the short black shorts. The top revealed Nebula's lean but muscular chest to all of the viewers. There was just a hint of abs. He wanted to lick them. The urge to do so surprised him. He's been attracted to few others, but had never felt that compulsion before. Not that he'd seen any of his previous crushes, it was a crush at this point, in a fishnet top or even topless. While the goth streams made him feel more carnal desire for Nebula, the First and Friday streams gave him soft, protective feelings. Nebula looked so innocent and sweet wearing those damn cat ears, it made Damian want to make him a kitty burrito using only the softest of blankets. He wanted to buy face masks with cat features on them for the other man to wear on streams. He wanted to spoil Nebula, give him everything he desired. He longed to stroke Nebula's hair, feeding him chocolates, then kissing him sweetly. The other streams Nebula did were more spontaneous in theme. There, Damian had begun to get a glimpse into who Nebula was under the mask. Each tidbit of information made him ravenous for the next. The Hero Hour was Damian's favorite miscellaneous stream segment. Nebula's thoughts and opinions on different heroes was simply incredible. He guessed tidbits with stunning accuracy and was incredibly fair to all heroes, even when they were receiving bad press. It baffled Damian. How could someone out of nowhere give him all of these conflicting urges? It was madness. One he wanted to indulge in. Undead Nebula's stream would be tomorrow, a First and Friday stream. He needed to watch it. Danny didn't know what he'd expected, but it was not him going semi-viral again for his dumb Batburger toy ranking. It had just been some dumb fun, but people were reading too much into it, saying he had a thing for violent, angry men, hence his ranking of Robin and Red Hood. Which, whatever. He was ranking the toys, not the actual vigilantes. It was pretty arbitrary, and all in good fun, but no. He was still being called a simp for Robin, and getting crap for putting Batgirl in the A tier when she clearly deserved to join the Batman and Black Bat in the B's only tier. That one was a fair judgment. The rest, not so much. Granted, it was only a small minority of people who were being rude and sending hate comments. It still hurt, though. He thought he'd develop thicker skin than this, or was it merely that when he was Phantom and receiving all of the hate, he'd been too tired to care? Ancients, he was tired now, yet he still cared. Between streaming and all of the extra shifts he was picking up at Batburger, he hadn't gotten much time to himself. The extra money from streaming was starting to become useful. Danny had been able to eat better food than ramen. Eggs, salad mix, bread, and deli meat were in his fridge for once. It wasn't much, but it was healthier than cup ramen. He'd also been able to buy some staples like rice, potatoes, onions, and carrots. November was in full swing. The streaming money had also allowed him to make full use of the heater, ensuring the small apartment was warm. With Tucker's PDFs, he'd started studying for the GED, and he actually had money aside to pay for him to take the test twice, although hopefully he only needed to take it once. Things were starting to look up for Danny. Damian sat at the desk in his personal study. He was going over some Wayne Enterprise documents for the upcoming quarterly earnings call. It would be a breeze between Father Drake and himself. Preparation was still necessary, especially if Damian wanted to have the company support the city's TNR program, Trap, Neuter, and Release. As much as he loved kittens, he hated that so many would be born on the streets. The city's TNR program would reduce that number. What was different about today, though, was the cheerful and colorful Twitch interface on his leftmost computer screen. Undead Nebula's stream would be starting in approximately 3 minutes. He could hardly wait to see the young man's face, his head adorned with those black cat ears. Damian's patience was rewarded by a soft, "Hello, everyone," a few moments later. The stream starting soon card fell away to reveal Undead Nebula. He was wearing a worn blue NASA hoodie that was a little large on him, the fabric bunching around his wrists and elbows. As was usual for the Friday streams, cat ears were on his head, blending in seamlessly with Nebula's raven hair. The face mask was on, as always. "How are all of my stars and galaxies doing today?" asked the streamer with a brilliant smile. "I'm doing pretty well. Work sucked, but I'm happy to be here with you. Hanging out with you guys always lifts my mood. Oh, so I plan on making a Discord server soon. I already caved and made a Twitter, which, to be honest, I hate. The Bird app is not my friend, guys. I swear, there are so many bots and assholes on there who like to send me mean shit. Yeah. Discord! I will be making one in the next day or so. I'm gonna add the invite link to my About page. I know Halloween is only a couple of days away, and I don't usually stream on Tuesdays, but I'm thinking about doing a special one for Spooky Day. I mean, I'm very interested in ghosts, the afterlife, the undead, and all that jazz, hence my name. Nebula laughed. It was a nice laugh. Which is perfect for Halloween. I think there's some games where you play as a ghost, and that sounds right up my alley. With that, how about we get started? Nebula booted up the game, Cat Cafe Manager. Time passed quickly, watching the young man coo over the cats, excitedly naming them and leveling them up. It was amusing how, at first, Nebula was only interested in the cats and his cafe, but began opening up and falling in love with the patrons. Sometimes. When he was here, alone in the office, his only interaction with others had been as Robin. He felt isolated, alone. He was also of the only members of his family not to have a paramour. Richard had Gordon, Todd had Harper and Coriander, Drake had Kent, Kane had Brown, Father had Kyle. That made him the odd man out, alone. At least, that's how he felt most days he worked in this office. Not today, though. Nebula's voice coming through his headset was comforting, soothing, relaxing. As the stream ended, he made his first comment in the chat. Red_ghoul. Goodbye. The stream was enjoyable. I look forward to the next one. Damian became an avid watcher of Undead Nebula, commenting more and more each stream. He enjoyed the companionship. It also helped that Nebula was easy on the eyes. He even signed up for Discord with the same handle, red_ghoul, that he had on Twitch. Nebula's Discord server had started small, but was growing quickly. It was the same with the Twitch channel. Damian participated in the art channel, uploading sketches of Nebula first, before posting a whole variety of sketches. Besides Nebula, he never posted art with humans. Surprisingly, he'd received a direct message or two asking if he did commissions. Damian turned them down. Once they had become available, he'd used his Stardust points to purchase a VIP role on the server. He was a Tier 3 subscriber on Twitch as well. He was getting himself in too deep. It was fine, though. There was nothing wrong with this. It made him happy. What was wrong with that? Everything changed the day Nebula mentioned wanting a cat. Oh my god, look how cute I am! I'm a little orange kitty! I really love games with cats. I always wanted one, but my parents never let us have one. I can meow at other cats. Yes! Nebula gushed. He was playing the game Stray, which had the player play as an orange cat in a post-apocalyptic world. I've thought about getting a cat, now that I've moved out and everything. Yes, I want to scratch the pole. Wait, oh, that's clever. One button for each paw. Scritch, scritch. The streamer laughed happily. My worry with getting a cat is taking care of it. I'm able to support myself, and I should be able to support a cat as well, but it's the initial startup cost, you know? I need to be able to buy beds, scratching posts, toys, a litter box, food, treats. That's not to mention the cost of the adoption fee and to spay or neuter the cat. I don't know if you've been to any animal shelters recently, but the cats also might need some medication for a little while. Kennel cough and respiratory infection can spread easily in shelters, even when the staff are doing their best to stop it. Since I'm adopting, who knows what the cat had previously gone through? They might need some additional care for... What the fuck? Is this a joke? Red Ghoul, did you accidentally add a few zeros? Because that's a lot of money. Nebula's voice was raspy and choked, seemingly holding back tears. I really appreciate the donation. if it was an accident or you accidentally gave me too much, I think you have 24 to 48 hours to change or fix it before it goes on your card. Just give me a minute, guys. Nebula took off his headset, rolling out of sight of the camera. Faint screaming could be heard. Okay. I'm good now. Promise. I'm just... We're gonna keep playing the cute kitty game. Oh my god. Cats! Sorry, my brain is just mush. It's fried. Nebula stayed mostly silent until the cat fell. Once that happened, the streamer proceeded to freak out, worried about the virtual cat. He resumed being his exuberant and peppy self once he was assured the cat was okay. Damian relaxed after the whole donation fiasco. $5,000 should be enough to adopt a cat. He'd been impressed by the thought and care Nebula had put into getting a cat. Not all potential adoptees were as thorough. It proved to Damian that Nebula deserved a cat. He had the means. The pleasure and glee he felt upon seeing Nebula's surprise reaction was new, but not unwelcome. The stream eventually ended, far too soon for Damian's liking. It was a 4-hour stream, but he liked Nebula's voice and general demeanor. Nebula had barely signed off when he got a message in Discord. His eyebrows raised. It was a direct message from Undead Nebula. Undead Nebula. Hey, so just wanted to remind you that you can totally fix your donation if you're not sending so much money, or you can completely cancel it, no worries. Red_ghoul. It was not an accident. I meant how much I sent. Undead Nebula. What? Dude, that's 5K. Red_ghoul. Yes, that should be sufficient for you to procure a cat, or do you need more? Undead Nebula. No, I'm good. Undead Nebula. I just don't get it. Undead Nebula. Thanks. I'll leave the donation for you so you can get it back if you change your mind. Red_ghoul had apparently not changed his mind, and the money went through. It showed up in his bank account. Fearing the worst, Danny let it sit there for 2 whole months before he admitted to himself that it was real. What the fuck? However, by the time he'd admitted to himself that the money was real, Jazz was preparing to move to Gotham, and he did not have time to go to the shelter and pick up a cat. He was having to pack everything up as he'd went to move in with Jazz. Her stipend from Arkham and her scholarship paid enough for her to get a small apartment, and with the money Danny was making through his job and streaming, they could afford to rent a small town home closer to the docks. The area had slightly less crime and would give Jazz a shorter commute to Arkham. It was also located not too far from a bus line that could take Jazz to the university. The working fixtures and lack of mold in the town home were what sold Danny. It only took 1 day for him to move his meager belongings to their new home. He moved in after Jazz, not wanting their parents to see him. Their relationship was complicated. They claimed they loved him, even though he was Phantom, but they still had no problem talking about ghosts as if they were less than human. His parents also weren't subtle. Their every action projected their disgust with him and their uncomfortableness to be around him. It had just been easier when Danny had left, when he'd run away. They hadn't bothered filling a missing persons report after him. They hadn't looked for him, hadn't tried to talk him out of it, knowing that he would be missing his senior year of high school. They had his number, but they never called. He'd kept it the same, hoping. It had never come, though, and it had been months. He was losing hope. At least they still cared enough not to out him to the government, not to tell guys in white who he was. That was a small blessing. Danny sighed. He just finished his first stream after moving in. He'd had to explain to his curious viewers that he'd moved. He'd tried to keep it vague, not wanting to accidentally give them any extra information they could use to dox him or find him. "Hey, Jazz," he called into the house. "What?" came her yell from downstairs. "You cool if I get a cat?" Jazz didn't reply, but he heard her making her way up the stairs. "Yes! I think a cat would be great for you, Danny," Jazz proclaimed, coming into his room and sitting in his bed. "We'll have to pay pet rent, right?" "Yeah, but it shouldn't be too much extra a month." "Cool. I still need to buy stuff for them, but I should be ready to go visit the animal shelter next weekend. You wanna come with? Help me pick out your new niece or nephew?" Danny teased with a grin. "I'd love to. Have you thought about what kind of cat you want to get?" "Well, probably a black cat. They're usually the least adopted cat, and an adult cat. They have a harder time getting adopted, too." "Alright. Do you have enough money for the adoption fee? I can lend you some if you're short." Danny blushed, thinking of the very kind and generous donation red_ghoul had given him to adopt a cat. No, I've got this." Jazz eyed him suspiciously. "What aren't you telling me, little brother?" "Well," he began sheepishly, "one of my viewers on Twitch gave me a huge donation so that I could adopt a cat." "That's really sweet of them." Yeah, it is," Danny said with a small, bashful smile. "Do you think I should ask them if they want to help me name the cat?" "That's up to you, little brother. It's your cat. Plus, what did they give you, like $50? I don't think that will cover the adoption fee." "No, they kinda gave me 5,000. "What?" Undead Nebula. "Hey, Undead Nebula. So, I'm going to pick out a cat today." Undead Nebula. "I'm probably going to rename them." Undead Nebula. "Since you helped me adopt this cat, do you want to help me name it?" red_ghoul. "I would be amenable to that. I am of the opinion that cats should be named after how it looks, and for the name to have meaning." Undead Nebula. "Okay." Undead Nebula. "I'm thinking of getting a void." red_ghoul. "A void?" Undead Nebula. "A black cat. They're the least likely to be adopted, so I want to get one." Undead Nebula. "An adult, too, since they also have a harder time getting adopted." red_ghoul. "A wise and compassionate choice. I approve." Undead Nebula. Thanks? LOL. Undead Nebula. "Anywho, back to names." Undead Nebula. "You got any ideas?" red_ghoul. "You enjoy space, no?" Undead Nebula. "Yeah?" red_ghoul. "Why not something space-related?" Undead Nebula. That could work." Undead Nebula. "How about galaxy or cosmos?" Undead Nebula. "Eclipse is a good one, too." red_ghoul. "What about Orion?" Undead Nebula. "I love it." Undead Nebula. "If the cat ends up being a boy, I'm definitely gonna name him Orion." Undead Nebula. "But what if they end up being a girl?" red_ghoul. "Perhaps Celestia? That is a rather regular name." Undead Nebula. "I mean, it reminds me of My Little Pony, but it's a fantastic name." red_ghoul. "I am pleased that you like my suggestions. I'm happy to have been of assistance." Undead Nebula. LOL, so you can use emojis. red_ghoul. "I can. I'm familiar with some slang and lingo. My brothers have ensured that. Undead Nebula. Brothers? Undead Nebula. As in plural? Undead Nebula. How many do you have? Red_ghoul. I have approximately 4 brothers and 2 sisters. Undead Nebula. Holy shit, that's a lot of siblings. Red_ghoul. Yes, my father has an adoption problem. I am his only biological child. The rest are all adopted. Undead Nebula. Damn, dude. Undead Nebula. I just have 1 sibling, a sister, and that's enough for me. Undead Nebula. Don't need any more. Undead Nebula. I'm younger, so she likes to boss me around a bit. Red_ghoul. I am the youngest of all of my siblings as well. They certainly try to boss me around, but it does not work. Damian hesitated. How much should he reveal? This was still relatively unknown streamer. They likely wouldn't remember much about him. He should be fine, as long as he didn't reveal anything too incriminating. Right? It would be nice to speak with someone who was not a vigilante and didn't know about his double life. It also helped that Nebula was a fan of Robin. Red_ghoul. I look forward to seeing the cat you choose. Undead Nebula. Thanks. I have a few more surprises too, once the cat is home and adjusted. Undead Nebula. Hopefully. Undead Nebula. Cats aren't always known for being cooperative. Undead Nebula. Undead Nebula. Do you have a cat or a dog? Red_ghoul. I do. I named my cat after my Persuado grandfather. I have a dog as well, a Great Dane. I named him after a character in Shakespeare. Undead Nebula. Persuado grandfather? Red_ghoul. My biological grandparents were killed when my father was young, leaving him an orphan. My Persuado grandfather was a close friend of theirs who took my father in. It is clear that father views him as his father, and that my brothers and myself view him as our grandfather, perhaps due to his loyalty to my biological grandparents. He does not encourage us to call him a familial name. Undead Nebula. Huh. Undead Nebula. I'm sorry. Undead Nebula. Undead Nebula. Well, Undead Nebula. It's not the same. Undead Nebula. But I've basically been disowned by my parents. Undead Nebula. I revealed to them something about myself they couldn't accept. Undead Nebula. Sorry. Undead Nebula. That was probably way more than you wanted to know. Undead Nebula. And probably not super relevant to the conversation. Undead Nebula. I just tend to relate to people through sharing similar experiences. Undead Nebula. Shit, I don't mean to compare your dead grandparents to being disowned. Red_ghoul. Nebula. It is fine. Red_ghoul. I am sorry you were disowned for being gay. Red_ghoul. I'm lucky to have older siblings who were already out when I told my father I was gay. Red_ghoul. It was still difficult to do so, even knowing he had accepted my siblings. Red_ghoul. Due to me being his only biological child. Undead Nebula. Keyboard smash. Undead Nebula. I didn't mean Undead Nebula. I'm not gay. Undead Nebula. But I am in the alphabet mafia. Undead Nebula. Thank you. Red_ghoul. My apologies. I should not have assumed. Undead Nebula. No worries, dude. Undead Nebula. Off to go get the cat. Undead Nebula. Pictures will be sent soon of the cutie. Red_ghoul. I look forward to them. Orion made his debut on the stream about a month later. Damian felt smug as Nebula showed off the black American short hair with emerald green eyes. Nebula's surprise had been a cat cam, which was pointed at a very cozy-looking cat bed with little fairy lights around it. Using the Stardust coins, one could have Orion be fed treats or be pet. After Damian and the other viewers abused that the first time stream was on, Nebula put a limit on the number of times they could feed Orion. A timer was also added so Nebula wouldn't have to bother the cat while he was sleeping. In fact, there was even a Stardust reward that let you increase the timer so Orion could sleep longer without being disturbed by a pet. Damian was torn. Orion made a cute little murp noise when he was woken up from a nap to be pet. However, it was also incredibly rude to disturb the cat while it was sleeping. Depending on the day, Damian would either increase the timer, letting the sweet boy sleep all stream, or get Nebula to bug the cat with multiple pets. Damian was very tempted to use a coin flip to determine which side he should be each stream, but that made him feel too much like Two-Face. He did not want to emulate Dent. It was inevitable that eventually his duties as Robin would prevent him from watching a stream. He knew he could watch it later. He was a Tier 3 subscriber. It wouldn't be the same, though. He wouldn't get to feed Orion or hear Nebula's voice or get to see the man's beautiful eyes. He debated whether or not he should tell Nebula that he was missing this stream. He eventually decided against it. He was just another faceless person among the massive viewers that Undead Nebula had. They may have exchanged some direct messages, and he may have helped Nebula procure Orion, but he wasn't special. He wasn't. Undead Nebula. Hey, Undead Nebula. Hope this isn't weird or anything. Undead Nebula. But you usually show up for my streams. Undead Nebula. So I was kind of worried. Undead Nebula. You okay? You can talk to me if you need to. Undead Nebula. I'm happy to talk. Damian stared in shock at his phone. Nebula had noticed he wasn't there. He'd reached out. He hadn't expected that. He could feel the beginnings of a blush on his cheeks. He'd need to respond to Nebula. You okay there, little D? Asked Richard, stepping out from the changing room in his pair of sweats and a loose t-shirt. I'm fine. Just surprised by some messages on my phone. Damian replied nonchalantly. Oh, from who? Curses. Richard would not let this go. An internet friend. Damian hedged. A mirage of emotions passed across Richard's face. Hey, Timmy. Yeah? Did we ever give Damie the talk on internet safety? I'll take that as a no, muttered Richard, displeased. I do not need a discussion on internet safety. I am not a child. I know how to be anonymous online. Damian snapped, disgruntled that his brother continued to act as if he was a child. He was an adult. He was 19. Jay, can you back me up here? Richard asked. Hell no. Leave the demon brat alone. I don't want to know what he gets up to online. Todd retorted from the other end of the cave where he was fixing up his bike. Thank you, Todd, Damian stressed, glaring at Richard. At least someone here sees me as an adult. Richard pouted. I just want to make sure you're safe, baby bat. Admirable, I'm sure. Unnecessary, though. Damian stomped up the stairs leading to the elevator. Good night, he called as he stepped inside, heading back up into the mansion. He didn't dare pull out his phone and reply to Nebula until he was safe inside his room. Red_Ghoul. I am surprised and incredibly pleased you noticed my absence. Red_Ghoul. I was merely unavailable due to a work commitment that I could not get out of. I will inform you next time I am unable to come to your stream. Despite the fact that it was early in the morning, around 3 a.m., he received a response. Undead Nebula. I'm glad you're okay. Undead Nebula. I was getting worried. Undead Nebula. Was also totally thinking about deleting those messages. Red_Ghoul. Why? Undead Nebula. Because they're super embarrassing, and it was probably really dumb of me to message you like that. Undead Nebula. I'm gonna shut up now. Red_Ghoul. I don't think that. Red_Ghoul. As I mentioned before, I was surprised and appreciative that you reached out. Red_Ghoul. I don't think most streamers would have reached out to see if I was alright. It speaks of your kindness and your character that you not only remembered me, but attempted to check on me. Undead Nebula. Keyboard smash. Undead Nebula. Keyboard smash. Red_Ghoul. Are you alright? Has Orion stepped on your keyboard again? Undead Nebula. Ancient. Undead Nebula. You don't realize it, do you? Red_Ghoul. Realize what? Undead Nebula. It's a keyboard smash. Undead Nebula. It's an internet thing. Undead Nebula. It's kind of cute that you don't know. Damian blinked in shock before his face turned red. Undead Nebula thought he was cute? Undead Nebula? When he looked back at the chat, the final message was gone. Had he merely imagined it? No, he'd seen it. Red_Ghoul. Thank you for explaining. Red_Ghoul. I don't really bother to keep up with internet slang or language. People can sometimes be rather rude when I am unaware of what they are referencing. Undead Nebula. Frowning emoji. Undead Nebula. I'm sorry, that was really shitty of them. Undead Nebula. I won't do that to you. Red_Ghoul. I know. You are too kind. Danny couldn't believe he called Red_Ghoul cute. He'd hastily deleted the message, his face tomato red. Had Red_Ghoul seen it? Hopefully not. It was just... Red_Ghoul had been so kind, sending him money so he could get Orion. He clearly loved animals, since he had proceeded to spend his Stardust coins like crazy to treat the cat and to pet the cat. Not only that, but Red_Ghoul was so formal in how he typed, always using proper grammar and punctuation, and not knowing a lot of internet slang. Despite his claims, his brother had taught him. Danny sighed. He knew that Red_Ghoul was okay. He could go to sleep now. It had bothered him that Red_Ghoul hadn't shown up. The boy didn't participate too much outside of talking about Orion and interacting with Danny's cat. The only way he'd found out anything about him had been through DMs. Red_Ghoul was fascinating in his own way. He wanted to know more about his mysterious cat patron. Danny groaned, rolling over in his bed. That would have to be for another night. He really needed to get some sleep. It was dumb. Really, really dumb. Going out in Gotham at night. But Jazz needed him. She just moved, gotten her monthly visitor, and could not find her supplies in all of her boxes. So Danny offered to venture out and get some pads, a hot water bottle, ibuprofen, and some Twix, her favorite chocolate. Maybe he could even pack up a movie and they could hang out on the couch for a couple hours. It was a short walk to the nearest pharmacy. Gathering everything quickly, Danny paid and made his way back to their small town home. As he walked, a heavy fog seemed to be rolling in. He sped up, trying to make it back to their place before it became too dark to see. He could use his ghost powers to bypass the fog, but he tried his best not to use them. He didn't want to attract the attention of the bats, any of Gotham's rogues, or the government in general. Glowing eyes, turning invisible, and flying would potentially stand out. Danny picked up his pace. He was only about 5 minutes away from home when he realized it wasn't normal fog. It was some kind of gas. The few people around him started to scream and run into the road, one getting hit by an oncoming car. A woman, a few feet ahead of Danny, pulled out her pepper spray and began trying to spray the air in front of her. But it was no use. His heart, which was normally slower than the average human, began to speed up. Nervous, Danny began to run down the street, dodging the screaming and panicking citizens. He held his breath, trying not to breathe in the gas as much as possible. Thank goodness he wasn't a normal human. He fumbled for his phone, pulling up Jazz on his contact list. He hesitated and decided to call emergency services instead. He needed to call them while he still had a clear head. He would be home shortly. Hello, this is 911. What is your emergency? There's some sort of fear gas attack happening down by the docks. I'm at the intersection of Union Street and Race Drive, Denny relayed as he ran. Okay, thank you. Police should be on their way shortly. Have you seen a man dressed as a scarecrow? No, I haven't. Plenty of people freaking out, though. Some guy got hit by a car. Please stay on the line as long as possible, sir. Are you able to cover your mouth in any way or stop the gas from coming in? The person on the other end asked tensely. Danny had every intention of following her request until something up ahead caught his eyes. It was his future self, dragging the corpses of his parents along behind him. Hi, Danny. It's high time you turned into me, Dan said calmly, fangs glinting eerily in the moonlight. His parents' corpses cracked and stood up, almost as if they were puppets on strings. Their eyes were ectoplasmic green, their grins cruel. Danny-o, great to see you. Just the ghost we've been looking for. Jack Fenton's disturbing visage said cheerfully. Oh, honey, you're just so special. We can't wait to study you. Of course, that'll help you turn into our boy, his mother said, linking her arms with his future self's arm. In her other hand, she held a chainsaw that glowed a gristly green. Sir, are you still there? Came the operator's voice from his cell phone. No, this isn't real. Of course it's not real. That doesn't mean it won't feel like it is, though. Dan laughed cruelly. Run, Danny, run. We'll get you eventually. And that was part 2, chapter 1 of Press Heart to Subscribe, a DPXDC podfic written by die_Erlacollagen and read by Summer Audio. I just barely missed the mark with it being 4:12 right now, but at least I know I'm gonna get it out by 5. This chapter, I know that it's chapter 1, but there's art at the end of this chapter, so you guys better go on over, give kudos, look at the art, it's amazing. But this probably would have gotten out by 12, but I took like a little break to eat some food. I made beans with chips. So it wasn't the most filling food, but it was still good, and I don't usually eat that much when I wake up, so, but anyway, this video is, as I said in the last one, they're gonna be a bit longer. Chapter 2 will be started next, and this the next chapter is honestly so slay. It's so fun, just like all of them. All of the chapters are amazing. We love them. But this chapter ended on a cliffhanger. Ooh, cliffhangers. What's gonna happen? But yeah. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed and have a wonderful day. Bye.